Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to this video, which is a quick demo of using Fritzing specifically for schematic design. So Fritzing can be used for many things, and we'll talk about that. So it has different circuit views. One of them is the schematic, and I want to emphasize on the importance of a good schematic design, especially if you plan to move on to a PCB design later. I'll also cover how to look for components and how to access the core components in the software. This is very important when you are designing. Also how to draw the schematic, actually uses this, you need to drag the components to the page, how the wiring works, and if you are using a certain type of component like the through-hole components, THT components, then you have to choose it when you choose the components in their inspector window. And finally, how to export and as a PDF if needed, or just as a Fritzing file. You can download Fritzing. So Fritzing, just you have to pay for a symbolic amount on their website to install the software to download it. So here's the software. So this is the welcome page of the software, and I'm gonna go straight to the schematic design. Just gonna delete this. So this is the schematic design. So there are three circuit views, let's say three main circuit views. So we have the breadboard, we have the schematic, and the PCB. So usually you would design your circuit on the schematic, and this is what I'm going to show on this video. So you have here the parts. So you can search for a part. For example, I want to look for the 555 timer. You can find it here. You can drag it. So it looks like the IC, but when you drag it, it will be the schematic diagram. And you can see all the options here. In the packaging, you can make sure if it's a THT or SMD components. So if you're not using surface mount components, then you should put THT. Now this will not affect the schematic, but it will affect the PCB. So if you're moving to a PCB design later on, let me show you how the SMD would look like components. It's completely different. So this will affect your design and the holes and the routing of the PCB, so it's better to do it correctly from the beginning. Now, before even implementing your schematic, you should draw it on a paper. So you should design it and then implement it on Fritzing. This is better because it's easier if you have the final design and you're just copying it here on Fritzing rather than designing from scratch. Now, to connect the pins on Fritzing, you cannot make a wire like to here, for instance, like Logism. You have to connect it to another component. So let's, for example, if I want to have ground, let me search for ground. So this is not ground. Let's try typing it. Okay, so here is the ground that I'm looking for. So just the ground simple. I'm just dragging it. For instance, I want to connect pin 1 to ground. I'll just make this connection. Let's say I want 5 volts, so we can put V++ or VCC. Oh, this is gonna take time. Easier for such component, the basic ones, to go to the core. If you don't know the name, it's hard to search for them. So we can press escape. So here's the searching, here's the core parts. And if you go to the core parts, you will find almost all components, the main ones. So you can find the ground and the VCC it's called the schematic view. So if I want to show this is a 5 volts, Then I can put it here, then connect to pin 8. Now avoid having such lines. You should have either vertical or horizontal lines. And for example, I want to connect pin 4 to pin 8. So this is how I do it. Each component, like an IC for instance, will have a name, and you can change this label. So I'll say first timer. So this will be the name of this component, or timer 1, whatever you want to put. Let me show how you can connect a capacitor or a resistor. So you can choose whether these ceramic capacitors or the electrolytic capacitor, which has a polarity. For example, I'm choosing the ceramic capacitor, and I want to change the value. So you have to go down and change it from here. So usually it will have a certain value. So for example, I want 0.1 microfarads, and it will appear here. Also, the rating shows on the capacitor, and you can also label it. And you can connect it like we did before. You can make a separate ground or have the same ground. The same thing for the resistor. So that's for the schematic. Later on, when you want to move to PCB, you just go here and you will already have the components and also the wiring of your connections. Now, if I want to save it as a PDF, I have to do File, Export as image, and then thank you for watching.